Okay. I'd like to call this Public Works Committee to order at 9:36. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Nolden,
Present.
Commissioner Winfrey,
Here.
Commissioner Ellenberg,
Here.
Commissioner Clemens,
Present.
Commissioner Avery,
Present.
Commissioner Shoemaker,
Present.
Commissioner Davis,
Present.
Commissioner Newman is absent, Commissioner Peppin.
Here.
We do have a quorum.
Approval of the minutes of January
So
12th.
move.
Support.
Support.
Is there any discussions or corrections? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Any public comments to the committee? Any public comments to the committee? Third time, any public comments to the committee? Seeing none, we'll go on to communications. Any communications? Old business? None?
Nope.
New business? Director of Administration, approve of the change order number 4 of a contract between Genesee County and E&L Construction Company.
Move it. Support.
And I'm going to say the amount if you don't mind, in the amount not to exceed $154,366 for a revised contract for the Genesee County Juvenile Justice Center. Is there any discussion? Mr. Shoemaker.
Yeah, so we've struggled a little bit on this project because of the current construction climate. Part of this is some insulation to certain walls, which ended up being higher than expected. There was some owner requested changes. The court requested some changes to lockers and where data locations were in certain areas to better align with what their future needs are going to be in that. So after they've seen the space and walked in that space, they said, well, maybe this would be better here or be better there. And then some technology changes as well. Just as an FYI, there's going to be another change order coming for the roof insulation on that, where our vendor that we ordered it from told us that we weren't going to get it until April, which was going to cause us to shut down the entire project and have an unheated facility with all that concrete masonry work. So just, that's for the future, but for this specific one, it was those things that I listed.
Any more discussion? Commissioner Clemens?
So I apologize maybe for not doing my due diligence on this issue, but the question that I have is if we are revising this contract to spend more for this, how is it requiring no additional appropriation for the project?
Sure. So when we set up the project, and all of our big construction projects, we include about a 7% contingency cost, because anytime you're renovating a space, a large space like we did out at Animal Control, for example, with an additional space at the front of the court, or building a new facility, you're going to run into things that were not anticipated, and you need to have some dollars set aside for those. So when the board approved this project, they approved a budget, and within that budget was a set amount for contingencies.
Okay, so this falls in that. Thank you.
Mr. Shoemaker?
My frustration with this is the fact is, I think, and Mr. Freeman, correct me if I'm wrong, we spent about $1 million on an architectural firm to actually do this. And now we're saying that the layout is right after spending $1 million, which is why we hired them, because of their expertise, so we wouldn't have situations like this. Unfortunately, my mic's not on, so I apologize. I'm sitting there talking away.
I wonder why you couldn't hear you.
I'm just frustrated with, we always allocate for the overages, and that's great. But, that's like saying in your household, you're not going to stick to your budget, so you create another slush fund because you can't stick to your budget. We're always going over on these things. I'm more frustrated because we spent $1 million with this, and now we've got to have architectural changes because when you're changing the way things are laid out. So I just would expect more when you spend that kind of money. So thank you.
Quick question. Is there a way, because it's the architectural company's issue because they didn't do something right, is there any kind of way we can recoup some of our costs?
Yeah, so on this specific change order, it wasn't the architectural company's fault. There was changes that were requested from the owner. So that was the majority of it, and then also that insulation piece of it, the portion that's included in this change order. So I wouldn't blame the architect on these specific things. We pushed back very hard on the architect and the contractor through our owner's rep to make sure that we're not being taken advantage of. And if you see what these things come in prior and then what we ultimately end up paying for, we work hard to make sure that we stay within that budget.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Shoemaker?
I'm back to the architect issue. I understand that a change order is not the architect's fault, but they're the expert in this. That's why we hired them, so we wouldn't have to go back and pay additional for change orders. You know, it's like hiring a builder and telling them that you have 5 kids, you know, and you want a bedroom for every one of them, and they build you a 5-bedroom house instead of a 6-bedroom house. You know, you know, you should know better, obviously, but we don't. We're not experts in this. We've never had done something like this before. And, you know, I'm sure the people over in the courts had no clue from there. And I'm just disappointed that they weren't advised a little better. And maybe someone from the courts can actually explain to me why we didn't see this to begin with. And now we're seeing it.
Yeah, I can certainly have Rhonda, who's the, you know, kind of over.
Before
Yeah.
we finally approve it at the next
Yeah,
meeting. I'm
absolutely.
fine
I
with
can
that.
set up a meeting between you and Rhonda.
That would be fine. Thank you.
Is there any more discussion on this matter? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion carried. Parks and Recreation, 1,
Ms.
approval
Chair?
of a purchase order of Vermont System.
Mr. Chairman, we've actually went over these in the park board. These are all aligned with what they're for. So if you don't mind, if I could, I'd like to move all 4 if you're okay with it. And I don't know. I'll support it. Commissioner Clemens, I know you were at the park board meeting as well. I'll support it. And I'll support it.
Okay, so we're taking a vote on 1 through 4. Any discussion on any of these? Mr. Shoemaker?
Just I see some, you know, renewals and other stuff like that, and I just wonder if, you know, things have been sent out for bid, and generally, the Parks Department is very good about that. So I generally don't worry. I just want a quick
Would you like
question
to
asked
talk
over
to Mr.
4.
Berry?
And I'm sure Barry
He's
could just
here.
Barry, you know, nod your head, yeah, you did it, because generally you do, but if not, I'd just like to know why we didn't.
So in general, we do anything under 30,000, we request quotes from at least 3 vendors if we can get them. Sometimes it's been difficult. In particular, number 2, Brinks Wood Products. We sent that out for bid. The bids came in too high. We did some work with some calls, some more vendors, and encouraged them to bid, and we've got it reduced from like 90,000 the first time to 37,000 the second time. And then recreational builders for parks, and that's a grant as well. It's difficult to find vendors that want to do that type of work. We have to work kind of hard to find people that we get them, and then we got to work them on the price as well. So yes, we have.
I generally know. I just, once in a while I want to hear it. It makes me feel better, so thank you.
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Is there any other business to come before this board? If not, adjourn the meeting at